What is going on, everybody? Just a few short days ago, I brought to you all a brand new leak regarding the Surface Duo 2. And what this was a leak from Geekbench. Basically, someone had run the Surface Duo 2 in their testing through Geekbench in order to get a score, a performance score through this benchmark. And by doing so, they unveiled to us the specifications of Surface Duo 2. Now, if you missed this video already, I'll kind of run through it really quickly here. I'm going to show you the tweet that I posted here, and this is the image that I tweeted out. Now, what it shows is Surface Duo 2 will run Android 11. You can see here that it is Microsoft Surface Duo 2. You can see that it was uploaded on August the 27th. That was very, very recently. You can see based on these specs here that it is running the Snapdragon 888 because that matches up with the 888 and really nothing else. And then you can see that it is 7.10 gigabytes of memory or RAM. So that basically means it will have 8 gigabytes of RAM. I know it says 7.1, but that means 8. It's going to be 8 gigs of RAM written on the box. And of course, as soon as this information was disseminated out, many people are already upset saying, oh my God, a $1,400 multitasking productivity device only having 8 gigs of RAM is an absolute joke. I've read this from many people already, several people. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do some work to dispel the myth again of RAM. Now, you've probably seen me already do this in the past with Surface Duo in 6 gigs of RAM. And we're just going to do it again because apparently it needs to be said again. 8 gigs of RAM on Surface Duo 2 is going to be totally fine. I know that this has 12 gigs of RAM. I'm aware of that. But I'm going to show you how little that actually means in real world performance. And I'm going to explain exactly why 8 gigs of RAM is totally sufficient and everybody should calm down about the RAM. So first off, what are we talking about? What is RAM? Why does it matter? Well, basically, anytime you open up your phone and you launch an app, that app is pulled off your SSD and a portion of it is put onto RAM. It's basically moved from it, not really moved, it's copied from the SSD over to RAM. That's random access memory. It's super fast, but it's also volatile, which means that when power is not being delivered to it, it gets erased. When you restart your phone, RAM is totally dumped and erased. It does this because there's aspects of each app that are going to need to be accessed very, very quickly, and having it in RAM makes it move much more quickly. It's as simple as that. When you open up an app, some of it goes into RAM. When you close the app, it gets dumped out of RAM to make room for the next app. So then here's the next question. How much RAM does the average app take? Well, luckily for you guys, I already did this on Twitter. So let's jump back over here to Twitter. This is a screenshot from my Z Fold 3. What I did is I just opened up a whole bunch of apps that I use on a regular basis, and I show here the totals. Edge was using 426, Twitter 527, Instagram 129. Now, if you scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, I've seen Instagram get up to like maybe 250, 300, but still not that much. Messages, TikTok, Outlook, even a video editor was only at 306, and I loaded some video files in there to get that total. So I took that number of 10 apps and I divided by, 10, I added them all up and I divided by 10. I found an average, and the average was 236 megabytes per app being used. But then you have to contend with the fact that all 8 gigs or 12 gigs, whatever amount of RAM, is not free because a lot of it is used by the system. So let's assume the system is using half of your RAM, which is roundabout correct. So let's say we're dealing with an 8 gig RAM system. 4 gigs is being used by the system, leaving 4 gigs left for apps. Well, what does that mean? That means if each app is averaging 236 megabytes per app, that means you can have roughly 16 apps open at once before running out of RAM. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about 16 apps that you need running concurrently. Okay, can you do that? I don't think that you can. That you need run? No, you don't. You don't need 16 apps running concurrently. And I think it's also really important to talk about what happens when an app is being cold start. It's being loaded off the SSD. It's not in RAM. Because obviously, if Twitter's already been open, let's close it and let's open it again. Hey, that's really fast. Well, what's the downside of running out of RAM? Let's say I'm going to open Twitter, I'm out of RAM, and it's not in RAM. Well, oh my God, what's that going to be like? Well, I can show you. Let's close out of every app I have open, and let's load Twitter. How long did that take? That's the difference. Okay, that was out of RAM. This is in RAM. So you're talking about instantaneous versus what? 2 seconds. This is what we're talking about. So what we're saying with Surface Duo 2 is that you'll be able to run roughly 16 apps concurrently before Twitter takes roughly that long to load. That's what we're talking about. And I'm going to illustrate this even further because I happen to have a Surface Duo over here and I happen to have a device with 12 gigs of RAM here. So why don't I clear everything out of RAM and why don't I open a bunch of apps on both of them at the same time so that you can see which one's faster, Snapdragon 865 plus maybe even Snapdragon 855, 12 gigs of RAM, 6 gigs of RAM, and let's see exactly how much the spec wars actually mean in day-to-day performance, because I bet you're going to be surprised to find out it doesn't mean crap. Okay, so we're on the overhead camera now. We've cleared out everything here. Let's go ahead and clear out everything here. It's already cleared out. So as you can see, no recently used apps on any of them. So let's go ahead and load up Twitter, and let's see. Okay, so did the 865 do anything that the 855 couldn't here? Was there some sort of huge difference in terms of performance? No. Let's close them both and let's open them both. Do you see anything there? No, you don't. Okay, so now let's start loading apps and let's fill things up and see what happens. How about Instagram? Pretty darn similar, right? All right, let's close Instagram. What about Reddit? Pretty darn similar, right? What about the Play Store? Hey, what do you know? It's a tie. What about everybody's favorite social media app, TikTok? Hey, what do you know? How about you're going to check some emails? How about Outlook? Hope you guys can't read my emails. How about Discord? How about RadarScope, my favorite weather app? Okay, so we've loaded up a bunch of apps now, right? So 12 gigs of RAM, 6 gigs of RAM. Oh, we've loaded up a bunch of apps. I bet Twitter is going to have to cold start now on Surface Duo because it's only got 6 gigs of RAM, which means it's really only got like 2 or 3 maybe gigs of free RAM for apps. Oh my God, I can't wait to see what happens next. Let's go back to Twitter. Holy shit, it was still in RAM. Still in RAM on the Surface Duo because ultimately, this doesn't matter. Have you heard the phrase diminishing returns? Just like with the megapixel war on smartphones, where it went from 8 to 10 to 12 to 48 to 108, and you would think that between 8 and 48, that was a pretty big jump. Well, from 48 to 108, oh my God, that's probably going to be incredible. And it wasn't. It's better, but is it like wildly better? Is the exponent continuous? Is it exponentially better? No, it is not. It is a wildly diminished returns. And with RAM, wildly diminishing returns are what we're talking about here. Now, I'm not saying that Surface Duo 2, if I can have it with 12 gigs of RAM for the same price, why not? Sure. And if you're upset because other devices that are $1,400 have 12 gigs of RAM and you just want to tick that box, fine, so be it. I get it. But if you're worried that performance is going to suffer, that you're not going to be able to run things simultaneously, I've shown you already, PUBG, a high-end game running twice, one on one screen, one on the other screen, 2 different clients, both running, no frame drops. That's with 6 gigs of RAM and an 855. If you're worried that 8 gigs of RAM and an 888 is going to suddenly suck because devices with 888 and 12 gigs of RAM exist, no, it's not going to suck. It's going to run really well. And the reality is that devices like this that have the top end specs, those specs aren't being used at all. The software is not utilizing 12 gigs of RAM. I'm sorry, it's not. Windows has a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM. My Surface Pro 7 runs fine with 8 gigs of RAM. Your Android phone, even with 2 screens and 2 apps running at once, doesn't need 12 gigs of RAM. It doesn't matter. And I know someone's going to say, oh, you didn't show 2 apps at once running, because it doesn't matter. Go watch my video of PUBG running twice. Go watch my video where I did LG dual screen case and the Duo doing 2 apps at once back and forth. It doesn't matter. I promise you. So calm down. Everybody stop freaking out about 8 gigs of RAM. It's fine. So hopefully I've either calmed your nerves or I've irritated you greatly because I've told you something that you disagree with. And if you do disagree with what I'm saying, I'm sorry, you're factually wrong. That's just the reality. Stay tuned for more Surface Duo 2 coverage as we get closer and closer to that late September, early October launch. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.